protective services for the municipality of North Cowichan. And I want to thank you for coming out on a gorgeous Thursday evening and giving up your time for this topic. I know it's very beautiful out there, and I'm sure there's lots of things you'd like to be doing. But you've made the time to come here tonight, and we thank you for that. So you know tonight that the purpose of this evening is to seek your input to the plan that we're working on with the City of Duncan, Cowichan Tribes, the Municipality of North Cowichan, with the goal of enhancing public safety. So really about making the community safer for everybody. We're focused on this area because we know that the folks who live and work in this area around the corridor, that the stresses in here are more evident than they are in other parts of the community. So we're focused on you guys because we think that you might have valuable input that we need to pay attention to when it comes to creating a plan to make it better for everybody on the corridor, for everybody downtown. So the goal tonight will be to gather that input from you, to hear your comments, hopefully to answer your questions. We have brought along some folks who might be able to contribute to that. If there's specific questions they can answer, etc. And we really want to have that input from yourselves so that we can incorporate it into the plan and have it pay attention to the right things. We really do want to make a difference in the short term. We want to make a difference in the medium term. We want to make a difference in the long term. But we are cognizant of the stresses that you're experiencing in your businesses, in your homes, and we definitely want to make some impact on that in the very near future. Part of that is understanding what we need to pay attention to and what we're going to do. So tonight is the starting process for us about gathering that from yourselves. We'll come back to our respective councils in Duncan and North Cowichan, Chief and Council of Cowichan Tribes. We'll present our findings from our discussions with staff and with social workers and with community members like yourselves. We'll present them with a draft plan, which will circulate that to the community to comment on. And what we'd like to do in very short order is come up with an actionable, concrete plan that's going to make a difference in the day-to-day lives of everybody, including the businesses, including the residents, including the folks on the street. So the purpose of that is tonight, and we have asked a good friend of ours, Bob Day. You may know Bob as the former mayor of North Cowichan. Sorry, North Cowichan. And we will be asking Bob to facilitate the evening, so he'll be taking over from me in a minute, and I'll be here as a panel member to answer any questions relative to our brief as the manager of protective services, which includes our CMP and bylaws. So, I guess without further ado, what I'd like to do is, first of all, I know that there's been some folks who commented that the notice that they got was relatively late for this event, for which I apologize and which I take full accountability. There was a few glitches. Thank you, Canada Post, et cetera, but no excuses. If we do further public events, we'll make sure you have lots of notice. So we accept my apologies for that. And what I'll do now is I'll turn it over to Mr. Bob Day, who will take us through the evening. And if I recall, the meeting is scheduled to run until 7:30 tonight. So hopefully we'll make a good use of our time tonight and get some good input and feedback from yourselves. And without further ado, I'll ask Mr. Day to take over for me.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much for asking me to do this for this group tonight. For those of you who don't know, I'm a retired politician, or unelected politician, so to speak. So forced into retirement, but I learned a lot of great lessons in that process, and a lot of stuff about this issue, the one we're here to talk about tonight and touch on. And you know, I got my battle wounds from a small community like Cowichan trying to deal with the issue as well. So I'm very well accustomed to this kind of dialogue and these kind of comments. In my election campaigns, I knocked on every door and in the town of Lake Cowichan, and I got to hear exactly what was on people's minds, and you know, and I wanted to be elected, so I had to maintain my composure. So that's what we're going to do here tonight. And I know we can do a good job of that all together. That's the most important thing. John, did you get the speaker turned a bit? I hear people kind of inside.
Yeah, let me know if it's echoing in your ear.
Yeah, is everybody okay with the volume here? I don't like microphones for this kind of event. I like to roam the room and be with the people, but you know, the looks on these folks' faces are they're responding, because that's how you get gauge what's going on. You know, it's just like a family conversation. That's what I'm aiming for here tonight. So I know these are issues that touch people in various touch points in their daily lives. And so let's just make sure we're respectful. I have a good comment to make on that before we go. But I just want you to know that this night is being videotaped. Only the panelists are being videotaped. So I want to ask for the same respect for anybody who's videoing or taking photography in the audience, please. Only because, you know, this kind of event, and especially in local government, we can't be seen publishing other people's faces. Only those who have agreed to do that. So So I do have a script here. I'm going to try and stick with it, but before we get started, I want to start right off the hop. That before we dive into these important conversations, I want to take a moment to emphasize the importance of respecting the diversity of thoughts and the opinions present in this room. Each of us brings a unique perspective shaped by our experiences, backgrounds, and beliefs. It is this diversity that enriches our discussions and helps us make well-rounded, informed decisions. And folks, that's why we're here tonight. Local government cannot solve all these issues. They didn't create these issues, but they're here with us, and they're going to do their best to create a plan that's going to help our community safe. They're going to do their best to lobby the other levels of government to get the funding necessary to make the solutions. But the most important part is community-led solutions and ideas and thoughts. So that's what we want to hear in a few minutes later on tonight. Okay, housekeeping. I'm going to follow the script for a brief moment. The washrooms out in the hallway somewhere. You'll find them. And John gave you a good idea about the plan and who the stakeholders are and such, so I'm not going to dive into that too much. You know, I've been in local government, and being a chairperson of Cowichan Housing Association, I'm really in tune with what's going on. I go to meetings, I watch meetings at home, just so I can stay in touch, so I know how to speak to people and address people. And I'm also work for Clement Society. I'm a community support worker, and I chose, because I wanted to help out and help communities make this better, I chose to work as close to street level as I can. So I'm in touch with these people, and you can ask a few of these politicians too. I'm one of the bigger thorns in their side when it comes to, look, we got to get going, we got to fix, because that's how we can do that. But you know, like they say, you can attract more bees to honey than you can, you know what, right? So if we once again, if we speak respectfully and share our ideas calmly and collectively, we're going to get some great solutions. And I've always found that in all the public engagement that I've done in my career. The one thing that I want to state is these problems are not unique to us. So I know that everybody, especially in this modern day, is looking to each other for solutions, what works here and there. You go into every major city, everywhere I go now, because of the work I do, I'm in tune. I actually look for these problems and see what's going on. One only needs to go down to Pandora Street in Victoria to see that, you know, they haven't got a grip on it yet either. So, or downtown east side of Vancouver. The only thing we seem to really have a grip on is saying move along, but then the problem just pops up somewhere else, right? And that's not a solution, and doing nothing is not a solution either. So we need to look to our upper level of government for support on that and funding, right? Because every problem in society takes people and working together to get things done. Page 2 now. Just a couple of things that you might want to know if you don't know it already. The OPS is over by Lewis Street is run by BHA, and that's something that local government really doesn't have a lot of say in. Those good people at BHA, they come up with the programs and they do the best they can to run them. And of course, they're up against everything like you know about, and they have a problem finding locations, right? And there's always a big uprising, but they're doing the best they can to, you know, within all the laws and the human rights acts and stuff like that to try and get things under control. And we know it's not. Everybody in this room, including politicians and decision makers, know it's not. But we're all navigating the same waters you do, just under different sets of rules. Street disorder has roots in several areas: homelessness, addiction, mental health. And many of these are not municipal services, man. If your municipal government had to look for funding to deal with all of those, you can expect $1,000 or $5,000 tax increase in your mailbox that you need to pay on July 2nd, because that money's not there. You know, yeah. So just a figure I like to throw out: 96%. Only 8% of every tax you pay throughout the year comes to your local government. The other 92% go to your provincial and federal government. So those are the people that need to reprioritize and start, you know, pushing that funding in the right way. I'm not picking on them because they're not here. But that's truly what it is. But you know what? It's hard for that level of government to prioritize that quickly on things like this too. So public perception of safety. I mean, there's some different things that people and way people look at it. Concern for residents about their personal safety, impact on business. I mean, public disorder can act as a hindrance for customers. Sure, it does. Cleanliness. I mean, I told you where I work. It's an issue. Noise, emergency response providers and homeless. I mean, I'm sure anybody downtown hears sirens at all hours of the day, probably just one after the other, especially during some days of the month. Property damage, there seems to be a lot of that going on too, but you know what? I like to figure out how things work and why people do what they do. So before I took my job on with Command Center and knowing where I was aiming for, I would drive down and sit over by end of the road parking lot just before the sun come up, and I'd watch and I look for people, and you can tell the people by the way they stand, the way they dress, and what their buggies look like and all that kind of stuff. And then I come back the next day, they're not there. Where'd they go? You know, it took me a while to figure out what happens. You know, when payday is, or what time of the day when two folks migrate from their street position to the places they need to be to go get their methadone. And if it's payday, they haven't had money for like 3 weeks, and so they go sleep by the bank machine so they can be in the door as soon as that check goes in the bank, so they can go buy something, right? And, you know, I really put myself in their shoes and tried to figure out what's going on. Plus, I did a lot of reading. Property values. I mean, that's a legitimate concern when you have that kind of street disorder where you are. It's a legitimate concern. So these are all things that we're looking for ideas and thoughts. And there's some politicians in the room, but they're not going to talk tonight. They're going to listen. And I know they are, right? And health issues, less likely for residents to interact with neighbors if public disorder is present. And I see that in the work I do, and like I said, where I hang out and what I see people, standing guard instead of being good neighbors. So the next steps, and we're gathering the municipality of Duncan and North Cowichan are gathering feedback, and there's a survey online which they encourage everybody to go online and find and fill it out. A draft plan will be prepared and it'll be presented to the public as well as the councils before a final plan is adopted. You know, I'm the first one to still say the local government takes forever, but we know when local government build plans, build sewage treatment plants, build water treatment plants, it's not like you and I going out in the backyard and building a garden shed with no experience that may or may not. I know mine does sometimes. It falls apart and I gotta go back and fix it, and I get better at it every time. But the plans have to last 30 to 35 years and hopefully longer than that. So it's gotta be something that can be funded continually. It's gotta be something that's gonna last and until the problem is solved. So that's why things take so long and it takes so much consultation, because I don't want to keep on going on about my local government experience, but it's important to know that I remember being there, and I was so privileged when I was, especially at the CBRD board table, to be in a room with so many experts on staff that could give me the best information that was available, especially in the modern days of communication when they can find it and collaborate with their partners around the world and around the province. So, what we want to know tonight is we want to hear about the issues you're having, but we want to hear your experience. Though we are most keen to hear your solutions and ideas, share your ideas or ask questions of the panel, reminder to be respectful. And I made that statement right off the top, so please be that way. Please follow that throughout the night. Remember, when you make your comments, you're going to have a limit of 3 minutes, and after I ask your questions of the panel, you're going to have 3 minutes. Sorry, we have somebody with a timer. They're going to give me the sign, and you'll be pulled off the hook. No, it's time to stop and move on, because we want to make sure everybody's heard, and we want to cover as much ground as we can before the night's over. So tonight is a dialogue. We want to have conversations, create space for respectful input, and help everyone better understand some of the issues. And when I say that, that points in both directions. We want to help you understand with these experts on the stage who are deeply involved in this issue, and they're going to learn a whole bunch from you. Sometimes at the end of the day, I talk to my wife, I said, boy, I was with this person all day long and they wouldn't stop talking, but you know, I listened, and somewhere in all that conversation was a nugget, something I needed to know. So with that, now I'm going to start by introducing the panel one at a time, and I think I'm going to start with John. He can probably narrow down his talk to under 3 minutes because he had a few things to say at the beginning. So, Mr. John Horn, could you introduce yourself and what your role is?
Thanks. So as I indicated, my role is Director for Municipality of North Cowichan. The Bylaws Department falls under my brief, as does the RCMP. Not the gentlemen in uniforms, but the civilian staff within the RCMP. But I would also add that they've asked me to take on the social planning function as well. And so my role in that is to work with the nonprofits, the charities, the government entities that deliver services in our community to build the social infrastructure that we need to tackle these problems in a fundamental way. So when I go into those rooms and we have those dialogues about the kinds of services we need, what I bring into that room is 20 years as a social worker, but mainly, how are we going to make our community more livable for everybody? And so the eye to building the infrastructure that deals with folks who are in distress, but also alleviates the distress that can be created by those folks in distress. So that hat is also part of what I do every day, and so I try to combine, and I've asked our council and mayor to allow me to combine those elements, the RCP functions, the bylaw functions, if you speak the enforcement side of the equation, and to meld that in with the social services side. So those things work in harmony, and that's really key. I've done this work in other cities, and I can tell you that when you're collaborative and integrated, you have a lot more impact than you do when you're fragmented and not working alongside each other. So that's really the key part that I bring to this role, and to meld those things together and to support our colleagues who build the infrastructure that these folks are going to use and access every day. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll pass it on to the gentleman to the left.
Thank you, John. Next.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Wes, Constable Wes Richards. I'm with North Cowichan, Duncan RCMP. I've been in Duncan for 5 years working here. I'm currently in charge of our community safety unit. It's supposed to be a 4-person unit. Our corporal right now is off for a bit. So our responsibility is the corridor. We were developed about a year ago. Our unit was started about a year ago. We police pretty much from Drinkwater Road, where Powell Road is, the facility up there, all the way down to Silver Bridge, and we're trying to assist Cow Tribes as well, and develop a partnership with Cow Tribe Security. We work closely with Duncan and North Cowichan bylaw as well. Our responsibility is to deal with the unhoused, the drug issues, and try and keep that area clear and try and deal with those issues. So it frees up our general duty members to take all those other calls for service. We started using bikes, so you'll see us out on bikes. We're trying to use that as a tool for us to get around and try and do enforcement that way. Like I say, we work closely with bylaws, so we're starting a new program where we're working as a group. All of us are riding together, and we'll start from one end, work down the other. Bylaws are able to do their enforcement. If there's any bylaw infractions that we find, the bylaw officer can deal with that. If that person's giving them issues, then we can step in. And then we can step in and deal with any provincial, federal statutes that we are mandated to deal with. But yeah, we've been trying to focus our attention down here and try and help the business owners and community down here with dealing with some of the issues that are impacting you guys right now.
Yeah. Thanks, Wes. I have some remarks about the work you do and the work bylaw does, but I'll wait till we get to the end of the line here. So next, Lee.
Hi, my name is Lee Fox. I'm Director of Operations for Lookout Housing and Health. I'm very new to this role and very new to Duncan. Lookout operates the school mall shelter on school mall housing, school mall Shalala on Paddle Road. We also operate the village on York Road, or Trunk Road, sorry. Sorry if I'm stumbling, I'm learning all these things as I go. And we are partners with Island Health operating the OPS. York Road? Okay. And I'm very honored to work in this community. I recognize that the great work that so many of the community partners have put into inviting Lookout to be a part of this community, and I look forward to helping create this plan to work with your community's most vulnerable adults.
Thank you, Lee. Rachel.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Hastings. I'm the manager for building and bylaw for the city of Duncan. I've been a part of the corridor program since its inception in 2019, which I know most of you here in the room. I've been with Duncan for about 3.5 years now, and we work really closely with RCP and our North Cowichan partners. We bike a lot within the corridor. We're out there, you know, making partnerships and relationships with everybody we meet. And I'm really looking forward to hearing any thoughts or suggestions on how we can improve the current plan that we have.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Yeah, so like I said, I start a lot of my days down there when the sun comes up and in the spot that most of the activity occurs, and I watch the RCMP and bylaw for both municipalities do the fine work they do, and they really do. They're out there trying to get the things back in order after a long night out there, and they're very compassionate, because after all, folks, we're dealing with other people, and trying to get things cleaned up so everybody can start their day. But you know, I think the reason why we're here, because that's still not enough, but it's a whole lot of effort and compassion going into the work you do. So I want to thank you. You know, before I started this job, I thought it was the militia going down and just clearing house, but it's not like that. And I don't think anybody wants to see that kind of approach to this until we can get some solid plans in place to get solid solutions moving forward. So with that, I'd like to turn the microphone over to our microphone runner, and where is that? There she is. Open to start the conversation now. So you don't need to direct it to anybody in particular. We'll just we might get several answers from a few people, and the microphone will come to you, so you don't have to come down front. So who's first? Did I see? Okay, right up front here. Yeah. And if you could just, you know, for the sake, could you just tell us your first name and.
My first name is Cheryl.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you. Thank you for having this meeting. I kind of live where what we call is ground zero, which is right on Lewis Street. And the problems that we've been having, nothing seems to work. And I think a lot of it has to do with the homeless people themselves and being on the drugs that they are on. They just don't care. They're at a state where they're not in reality. So it's very hard to deal with them, and it's like we've seen the police come down, and we've seen bylaw come down and gather them up and move them on their way and then clean everything up, and by that evening they're all back again. It's not working. And I think for myself that the only solution that I can really see work is by designating an area for them that is patrolled and policed. That because they also have a lot of problems within their own community of rape, of beatings, of theft, and they do need protection. I am up on my balcony. I'm usually awake all night long. So I'm up and I'm sitting out on my balcony and I hear what's going on out in the street. And I see people coming through our apartment building area, and I'm telling them to turn around and walk away. And I hear the fighting and I hear the drama. And it just goes on and on and on, and it doesn't stop. The only solution that I can see is by giving them a designated area that is, okay.
You can wrap
That's the
up.
sound of 3 minutes.
Wrap that up.
Yeah, please.
You got 2 more words to add to that?
Okay, just to wrap it up, just by giving them a designated area that is safe. It would be safer for us, and it would be safer for them. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. address those comments.
You know, just add to that, in that, I don't know if all of you were here when the pandemic hit, and we initiated a pandemic response for what were called the most vulnerable in our community, and we created a number of sites for people to go to, with the idea that we didn't want people going around our community who might be infectious and spreading the pandemic. You know, we were all working our way through that stuff in the early days, and what we saw was we could create spaces that were well managed, that were orderly, that people had the opportunity to spend their days and nights there, and we were able to largely reduce the presence on the streets to almost zero of folks who had nowhere to go. And that little experiment taught us a lot about how you run successful communities, and we would look to the village as the inheritor of that knowledge, and look at it is possible to create places for people to go that don't cause stress in their lives. So I think that you're onto something there, ma'am, and we're happy for that input to come along our way, and I think we are one of the few places in Canada, I think, that's really tried this out in a really innovative way and seen success at that. So thank you for that comment, sir.
Anybody else? Go ahead, please.
Sorry, I'm Lee. I said I was new to the community, but I'm not new to Lookout Pool, and I'm not new to community problems such as the ones that you're describing. You are definitely onto something. Sorry, you are definitely onto something, and you know people do when they are without houses, without homes to go to. They do tend to turn to desperate. They have no other choice but to turn to. They end up getting more traumatized than they already were, and things just worsen. So finding these designated spaces, such as this incredible plan that the community came up with for the village, is ideal. So things like that, having people have their own spaces, we find we can see the results of it. People are healing. People are coming back. They're able to rejoin with their families. They're able to get off the drugs that they couldn't do when they were walking around with their carts all the time. And there you go. They don't have to urinate and defecate in public anymore because now they have a washroom. So it is about that. So yeah, it's about dignity and allowing people to have that hope again. Because when they're on the streets, they have no hope. They have no care. They have no. So, you know, having a place is definitely the solution.
Thank you, Leah. Oh, the hands are going up now. Okay, so that's good. And we want to keep the conversation going as much as we can. So we're gonna go to this gentleman where the microphone is, and I think we'll come down here. We're gonna keep you busy. Go ahead.
Thanks very much. Just quickly.
Your first name, if you
my name is Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
And Shemanis. And I'd just like to express that I'm very grateful to have an opportunity to be here and be a part of this. My experience has very much been limited to pretty much trying to avoid Duncan now as a result of what's going on. My wife comes home after the school drop off every day. We hear a lot, and I'm hearing a lot, oh, it's a common problem, it's everywhere, we can't do anything about it, and nobody around the world seems to know what to do. And I'm getting frustrated because I'm hearing the same kind of speech that I'm now starting to feel is why we're here. And I would like to ask the community and the panel why are we looking to the examples that clearly do work? And I would cite El Salvador as an example. Have we looked into not just, and I do understand that it's a federal and various levels of responsibility issue, but if you look to El Salvador since 2015, they've had a steady plummet. And to quote you a number, in 2015, there were 106 murders per 100,000 people, and guess how many there were in 2023? They brought that down, it was progressive, 2.4. They've got a 90% support from the people. The people love what's going on. And I don't believe it's just something we can throw off at the federal level. So my question is, if we are not, why are we not looking to examples that clearly work, finding out what's happening at the community level as well as the ones we don't have responsibility for, and trying to do something or learn from that example?
Thank you very much. Any comments from the panel on that one?
We don't just say yes. I think that's one of the things we need to do is to look around the world. I have done this work in Europe, in England, and in the Republic of Ireland. We went to America quite a bit to look at how they do things there. Maybe that's not the best example, but there are lots of places that are having impact on this issue. And I think you're quite correct that we need to learn from places that are succeeding, and what does that success look like, and how do we emulate it here? So, fully on board with that.
With all due respect, all those places that you just said that you were involved in helping are the worst in the world. I don't think those are to be emulated.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks. Okay, if there's debate, we can do that later on, and we can, there's emails and stuff we can send our thoughts to. So we have another comment up there, or question? Questions would be good, folks, if you have any queries. We're well aware of the issues, so we're looking.
For solutions.
Yeah.
My name is Kim and I live on Beverly Street, or right in the center of Epic. I think there is a question is why the OPS is where it is, why anything is where it is, especially with the school district. That was absolutely, it's mind-boggling that that was ever allowed to happen. I am concerned about what I see. I don't see a lot of police. When they do go by, they let the people sit on the sidewalk, laying across the sidewalk. They don't move them. I've seen it over and over where they just drive by. And they're laying out in the street. Been so close to killing a couple of them at night, driving by because they're passed out on the road. And I understand that it's hard to keep moving them, but again, like the first woman who spoke, I do believe that there needs to probably be two separate properties, and they should be out of town. I don't believe they should be in town. I believe there should also be counseling for those who want help, and also a place where it's police, so they're protected. And when they come into town to do activity that now drugs are decriminalized, and so we should be calling into the police when we see people doing drugs inside the street because it is illegal. And that's just mind-boggling to me that nobody's really doing that. At this point, calling in, as people have said, I still see people, there's no hiding it anymore, it's just plain open. I had a guy come at me, I thought he was gonna break into my car, I was at a stop sign, and he was off just high as a kite and came at me with such anger and force, I had to go through a stop sign to avoid him coming into my car. I've actually had somebody get into my car. So it is a safety issue. There's so many things that need to be addressed. I also believe it's not about shaming these people. It's about getting them help and not providing them free drugs. That's the stupidest thing in the entire world. And I think everybody can agree with that. It should be helping them to be a part of society, and that's not what's happening here. Having them set on a property way outside of town, maybe two, because there's a homeless situation which is different from people that are just doing drugs. I think there's two different situations going on, and I believe there needs to be help and counseling. We don't have a place like Eric Martin anymore, which I believe we probably need to be looking at that for mental health situations. And I also don't believe that when I see the police constantly, not the police, but the ambulance drivers just being driven off their feet and not being able to help other people because they're at another call trying to revive somebody, I think there needs to be almost a separate situation for that. Like MASH, they had a tent set up where they had to deal with I know it sounds awful, but where they deal with the immediate issue at hand so that other people aren't suffering because of it. I think it's not fair. They're the victims, but in fact, we also are the victims, and I think something needs to be done.
Yeah, your comments all point back to a better place, right? I've sat back in the sidelines both as it went well, the microphone's moving on the sidelines to a lot of conversations in my little town, Lake Cowichan. We tried to make a warming center with soup and a washer and dryer, but it got turned down because there's a bunch of community members thought it was too close to the museum. So that wasn't the right place. So then I asked the question and I still haven't heard the answer. And I still ask myself that question when I watch all the deliberations that go on. I watch the meetings where people try to say where we're going to put this out and where we're going to do that. And the warming center was one great example. I know I'm a little bit of I'm a Christian. And I grew up in an era where you could walk in the front door of a church. And I was just flabbergasted when I watched a session where like a church was not allowed out to open the doors and let people seek refuge at night. So it just went around and around and around, and we're still debating where this overnight warming center is going to go. No place seems to be good enough. It's always better somewhere else. So just keep that in mind. And I'm not criticizing. It's really tough for anybody to think where should it go, because every time there's a suggestion where should it go, it's like it can't go here. So just keep that in mind. And people are really trying hard, and it's difficult, and to make these decisions. So yeah. So go ahead.
Hi, my name is Travis. Live in North Cowichan, have a business in Duncan. And I just want to talk on, I can complain and have lots of ideas, but what I've noticed in the last 8 months to 10 months are some things that have been working sort of well. And it started before, but you mentioned, through one of the panelists mentioned that, you know, the village is good and you want to repeat that in all these places. And I just want to say that Lookout does manage Paddle Road, you know, the OPS site and the village. And it's not just that concept that works. Ultimately, it's the management and the leadership that's involved in that village. So to think that you can just place that place anywhere and have the same results is a false hope. And I hope that you would consider having the people that are managing that place now really have a good say in what's going forward and helping plan it. Where I'm going with that is because we've had a lot of them that haven't worked, and with the new management there, the key is that there's a lot of accountability. You know, we see people that are there that are causing issues for us, and we know that they're from that site. They either know that we recognize them and they come back and try to do something good, sometimes, not always, but they come back. Or we make a call over to the village, and you know, over there they make sure that person's accountable by, you know, coming back, saying sorry, whatever. And then there's been a change in the police, and I didn't know what the change was, but what I realized there was a change at with Ken Beard. And the police, I find now, have like a much better morale. And again, my problem before was they think, oh, we can't charge. They're going to drop it in, it goes to the prosecutor, it's going to drop it, and nothing would happen, and then I'd still be dealing with the same people. So I'm going to get the bylaw on this one. But the thing about this is, even if they do drop the charge, it's nice that the police can charge them, because I get 6 to 8 months of them not being able to come back to my property, and like, I do not, like, you know, an 80-meter radius or whatever. If they do come back, I call, and then that goes under a file. But the other part is that that's also accountability, which I see working. But what I would like to see is bylaw, and I'm not sure how it works and if they're allowed. But if there's the same problem and the same people that they come to the place and they ask them to go, and I know they have to give them that 5-10 minutes, it never works, but if they come back and they're still there in that 5 to 10 minutes, bylaw, I feel, should be ticketing these people. And how are they going to pay for it? Well, they might never be able to pay for it, but the thing is they know if they're getting that ticket, that's a little bit of accountability to them. And the next time that they're doing something, or they're on a property, or they're causing a little bit of a nuisance, and that ticket hasn't been paid, now there's a warrant. So at least they can get taken away, you know, 24 hours. So the whole thing here is this, like, the accountability part is working, and we just need a little bit more accountability from the different levels, like, you know, bylaw and the police, and then having the security at nighttime, because then our staff or people can make that call and get them to move. Again, getting them to move is a little bit of accountability. That's all I have.
Yeah, thanks, Travis. Well presented there, and I think the panelists might have to comment on that.
Thanks, Travis, for that. Just so, for us, it can be difficult. Rachel and I have been doing a lot of chatting. So when somebody's on somebody's property and they haven't committed an offense like break and enter or mischief or something like that, it's a trespass. It's under the Trespass Act, so it's a violation ticket. So it's just a fine, unfortunately. So Rachel and I have been chatting, and one of the members in my unit has done a lot of research on the Trespass Act. And so what our plan is so that person, like you said, you know, that same person coming to your business causing issues, he's always in your doorway or she's in your doorway, and we issue. So what's our plan is, hey, it's time for you to go. And then what we started doing is trying to get them to go. Or we're going to come back in 10 minutes because we have to go deal with this issue here. If you're still here, you're getting a ticket. So that's what we're trying to do, and then we're keeping track of those people. So what our plan is there's a thing called a long form. So under the Provincial Act, under the Trespass Act, it's just a violation ticket. But what our plan is that same person, John Doe, gets 10 violation tickets for sitting in front of Dairy Queen for Trespass Act. Then we can take those 10 violation tickets, we can put them into what we call report to Crown Council and ask that the courts charge them with mischief. So that's, or trespass under the criminal code. So that's what our plan is, and that's what Rachel and I and Kim are starting to work on. So that's why we started doing these joint patrols as well, because a lot of these guys don't see the bylaw officers as a person of authority. So when they say, hey, what's your name? It's take off, I'm not telling you type thing. So with us there, they have to tell us. And we have more tools in our toolbox to make them tell us who they are. And so Rachel started that as well, and North Cow, where we're assisting in providing identification. So the same thing, when they issue a bylaw ticket for trespassing or loitering, they get that name, and they're keeping track of those people as well. And together, we're going to work together to take that problem person and submit a charge to Crown. That's what our plan is, and we just kind of come up with that in the last month or so, I think, that we're starting to do. So we are trying. Unfortunately, like I say, with the ticket you were talking about, unfortunately, it doesn't really do much. Unfortunately, we're trying to use that to start the next fire, right? So we're hoping by keeping track of the person that's getting the 10 tickets for sitting in front of your business or anybody else's business, then we can submit that report to Crown Council to say, hey, this person's not getting the message with violation tickets. The fines obviously aren't going to be paid. We need the courts to step in and help us with that. So that's kind of the plan that we've developed between bylaws and the RCMP to hopefully combat that situation. I don't know if that helps you or not.
Why 10? That makes no sense.
We just took a number. I don't know. I just picked a number out of the air. Whether it's 5, it depends on the person too, right? If we got that person who is constantly being aggressive, we also have to show to the courts that we've taken every step. So to charge somebody like that, there's quite a bit of a burden proof on our side. So we took a number that we figured 10 was kind of a good number, just because it shows, right, that this person isn't getting the message. We have to prove to the Crown, right? So we figured that 10 number, that 10 tickets was a good number because it's showing that we've taken, by law, the RCMP have taken every chance that we can to try and get this person to get that message. So that was just kind of what we're trying. We're just trying something to see if it works. We don't even know if it's going to work yet, but we want to try and get something going so these people are held accountable. Not just a violation ticket. So that was just kind of the number we picked, just so we can show the courts that this isn't just a one-off event.
Thank you very much, Wes. Anybody else?
I can just add that it's just to show a pattern of behavior, right? So it's important when we're dealing with the same people over and over, and we do whatever we can. We have relationships, we bring in, outreach. If they just continue to choose to disrupt, we have to show a pattern of behavior. And we're held to a higher standard. We have to be fair and equitable at all times. And so 10 is reasonable. I can't imagine a court or a judge, if we're presenting an individual's behavior that has been, quite disruptive for some time, that they would be willing to just say, oh, it's okay. So that's why we picked 10.
Thanks very much. And Travis, thanks for bringing up the lookout and the good work they do, because if it wasn't for them, the village wouldn't be the model that's being promoted across the country as a model that works. I mean, there's people selling the you-know-what out of this program and how this is run and the plan, trying to get it duplicated over and over and over again until we could solve this. And I'm going to go back to the comment John made. For a brief period of time, with the temporary funding that flooded from the federal government and province, we solved homelessness here in the Cowichan Valley, and that's what made the place like the village come to an end. But it was temporary. So much of this had to be closed down. I said to my wife at the time I wasn't elected, boy, I'm sure glad I don't have to explain this one when it's done. But the funding tap shut off to a certain extent. There's still some there. And I'm going to pick on a colleague that I work with, not as at Lookout, but Dean, could you give me like the neighborhood percentage rating, the approval rating, where it was and where it is today, if you wouldn't mind? I hate putting people on the spot.
Yeah, when the village was proposed, there was over 600 person petition that had been signed, and yeah, the proposal was the city council to create a temporary use permit, and there was a large number of folks that had opposed that. And throughout the time, we had canvassed as we were going for extensions on the temporary use permit. On the first round of canvassing, it was about 6 months in, and we had very little pushback. We had, I believe, there was 6 people who were still continued to be opposed to the village, and the majority of that was the businesses that were along the highway corridor. They were still experiencing issues with people who were currently homeless. And the other 2 were just that funding should have been pushed to another seniors or whatever. The next temporary use permit, we also went out to canvass again, and there was only 2 people. And this was due to the procedure we had instituted that involved both the peers and the program participants who lived at the village. They themselves and our staff began doing hourly walks within the 150-meter radius, which was our responsibility to ensure that our program participants weren't within that area violating the Good Neighbor Agreement, the crime-free addendum that they agreed to sign upon entering the program. And what we found was, I believe within the first 3 months, was a 90% reduction in the folks who were found littering, loitering, and using substances in the area, and a reduction of 80% crime being reported in the area also within the first year. So then the third canvassing we went through, it was basically the same thing. The business owners, residents that were in the immediate area were supportive of the site and were actually more welcoming and had so much positive feedback about the program participants and about the program being there that we are now part of the neighborhood and welcome to continue operating.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. I just thought that was important for everybody to know.
And his team.
Pardon me?
And I don't mean to be rude, but that's because of Dean and his team, that leadership they show there.
That's right.
You know, it's not the same at the other facility. So I just want to make sure that it's not just take that and run. It's take that with Dean.
Well, I'm gonna actually put it on to Lookout as well too, because they have another facility that's running pretty good too as well. So, who's next?
She's gonna.
Oh,
Did you want to answer?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add in, Dean is an excellent manager of our sites. We have a number of sites around the province. And the thing is, first you have to acknowledge that homelessness is not something you can police away. Poverty isn't a police issue, really. And drug addiction and mental health, these aren't things that are easily solved. And not any one organization or one site even can solve this problem. It's going to take the community to rally around. It's going to take the community to open up and say, yeah, let's have that space here. Let's try this. Let's try this. Because these people are not just, they didn't just start rolling their carts around and deciding, hey, I think I'm going to become a junkie. I mean, they're in here because they've been traumatized. They've been hurt. They've had loss. They've had grief. They're people's kids. They're people's husbands, daughters, sons. Like, these people are family. And the reason why they stay in these communities and come back to these communities is because this is where they're from. They come to people don't want to just be moved to another community or outside of town because this is where they're from. Or from other areas, There's not enough, I've noticed in my short time here that a lot of the services are centered around Duncan right now. And I know that there's a plan to extend some services outside into the smaller communities, but this is kind of what needs to happen. Communities have to open up and start really seeing that this problem isn't going to be solved alone. And like what happened in the village was all services joined in. It was health, it's the Cowichan tribes, it's the police, it's the bylaws, it's us, our Lookout. And we've got 52 years of experience of doing this in many different communities. So, I mean, I appreciate all the things you're saying, Travis. It's not about Dean, it's about all the teams and all working together. And that's what's making the village a success. And if we could wrap that model up and copy and paste it all over the place, we'd have success all over the place. I'm pretty sure that's what the mayor and community members are trying to do. And that's what I'm here to accomplish. If you'll let us.
Thanks, Lee. And you know what? I could tell some pretty gruesome stories about trauma, but I'm not going to do it here tonight. But I just, anybody that hasn't looked into that, have a little look into it. It's easy to Google something and figure some stuff out. Like, I can't even go there. So then we have another question down here.
Yeah, I commend all the organizations, bylaw, RCMP, everybody who's trying to do something. My needs are more specific. I live on Middle Street. I've lived there for 16 years. It's hell on earth these days. It has been for 16 years. Now, the only words I can use to describe how my neighbors and myself feel, we're desperate, discouraged, and disheartened. We can't sleep at night. I walk everywhere. I don't drive, never have. I walk 3 times a week from my building to Sabon. Now, I follow everything that's being done at the Highway Corridor Foundation, when that came into being. I noticed a change for the businesses along the highway. I noticed when I walked along that strip that I didn't see as many needles at the time needles, or people passed out where I had to walk around them. Little Street is a dumping ground. Okay? We are residents. I'm happy for businesses to get the help they need. But I honestly have to say, we don't feel, people, residents of Little Street, hardworking, retired, whatever we are, we're not getting any peace of mind. We want our lives back because, yes, I have empathy for the folks on the street. I see it up close and personal because I walk right by them. But there's, there's others, there's us people. We're not addicted, so we're not getting, I'm not trying to put anybody down, but we need help.
You're
just
very,
to live our lives again.
that's a very valuable voice in the room, so thank you very much for sharing those comments from down there. Anybody, anything to say there, or I think we can all agree those are comments that strike in our hearts here. Go ahead.
I'm Dale, and good evening, panel, and thank you for hosting this. I also live on Blue Street, and I've been there for 7 years. I came there when we had a huge camp there, and I'd come home and sit on my deck and watch what's going on. And I actually phoned Rachel, asking her, how big does the rat have to be before it has to be muzzled and leashed? I'm going to go straight to John in this because North Cowichan, the previous council and mayor, after they got them out, they put a fence up on the north side of Lewis Street to stop the camping. Now, the construction is going on in an apartment building, so the fence went up. The fence went up in front of the ambulance shed, and according to John, and this is hearsay, John, I will look after this problem. So you moved them across the street and moved the fence in, and those there are the hardcore. Those are the ones we listen to every night, fighting, screaming, and all this. My question, I'm going to treat this like a chess game, John. When those fences come down, because that building will reopen, the fence will come down in the ambulance shed. What are you going to do with those campers on the other side? Because you said to us, we will clean up the sidewalk so people can use it. It's never happened. And even the RCMP, I wonder, as soon as they go off the sidewalk and onto the street, is that now the responsibility of the RCMP? Because it's to the point now, when I go to pull off York Street, you guys aren't always there, but there's times I actually have to stop on York to get onto Lewis Street. Then I've got to crawl, and it's a one-way, just a tiny little alleyway. So as soon as you guys disappear, they're flowing out. So are we going to have to put up with this for years to come, John? What's your solution once those fences come down on the south side?
Yeah, thanks for that question, and we appreciate that. One of the concerns that you guys brought forward to me when I started this role was that the sidewalk was getting choked up and it was no longer accessible for the citizens. Going from your apartments to Thrifty's turned to be down the middle of the street. So what we said was we're going to try some things. We're going to see if we can disrupt that a little bit. So we did move around some fencing. The feedback I got from the neighbors was that didn't really work. So I've had my dialogue with my colleagues in the Public Works Department, and we're gonna change that again, you know. So we're gonna take away the cement barriers that are in that parking area where all the folks are setting up now. We're gonna change that whole dynamic. We're gonna take the fence away from the St. John's ambulance or the ambulance service there, because they've now done the work they need to do to allow, because they were getting the vent and the inhalation stuff. So that work's being completed. We checked in with them this morning on that one. So that fence is gonna come down, they're gonna be able to, that piece of sidewalk will be open again. The construction piece, they've asked to remain that sidewalk blocked until they've completed some of the works in the front of the building. Fair enough. So we will give them the time to complete that construction project. Our commitment, though, is going to be to disrupt the dynamic now that's taking place across the street, to get you your sidewalk back, which was the original goal, right? And working with our colleagues in the RCMP and bylaws teams, we're going to make a concerted effort moving forward to ensure that we keep that sidewalk clear. Because one of the big topics was, I can't use the sidewalk. Look at this state. I can't even use it. So we're just doing all the little things we're going to try to do to see if we can get you back at least your sidewalk. And we will look at the longer term piece, and I don't mean long term, but immediate. How are we going to get folks off of Lewis Street in their entirety, right? Because it's not really feasible for us to just shuffle fencing around all day. We can do some shifts and some changes to try to change the dynamic for you, and that's what we're going to keep doing, to see if we can get something that works. But really, in the short to medium term, we need to give those folks somewhere else to be. That's as plain and simple as that. So that's where we're heading towards, but we take your point, we got the feedback from the neighborhood, that little experiment, we're gonna unwind that, we're gonna move the barriers, we're gonna change that dynamic again, and we'll keep coming back at it. I'll add one more piece, just so you know. One of the issues that we hear quite a bit about is the amount of drivers that folks leave. During their tenure there, when we ask them to go on, there's a lot of refuse that happens, right? And God bless Warmlands, they pick up a lot, and their garbage bill has leapt extraordinarily high. They phone me up and they go, we can't sustain this, it's too expensive. So the Municipality of North Cowichan has recognized that's a key issue for the residents. We have put in and been approved for 2 half-time positions that are laborer positions within our Public Works Department. Their job is going to be to clean, and to clean that part of the community. So it's going to be focused on your area. We're going to have a proper cleaning team. This is not to take away anything from the folks that look out in Warmlands, but they're full of garbage bags. We're going to have men with trucks, people who can lift heavy items, take away larger items. We're going to dedicate those 2 half-time roles to cleaning your area. Now, we're just working through the hiring process on that, so bear with us on that. We will hire in the near future for those roles, and that will be a priority for those folks to spend their days down there, ensuring that they're not dealing with the humans, they're going to deal with the bits and pieces left behind by the humans. So we can hope to address that as well. There's a team from Warmlands who come out every day. They're peers, let's call them that, folks who use the services there. And that's their contribution to the neighborhood, which they're expected to give as part of being there. And then I'll also give a shout out to Lookout, who has a funded peer program where they provide people with honorariums. And they take folks who are really taking those initial steps back into the work world, but they're not ready for that regular job yet. This is a way of introducing them back into a routine, responsibilities, and what we do find is people really appreciate that, right? So they get some nice kudos, and folks are coming away going, feeling good about themselves, your neighborhood's cleaner. We see that as a really nice win-win, and we'd like to extend those kind of programs as well. The folks who create the fuss should be part of the folks who deal with the fuss, right? So it's really a nice circle for us around that way. So I hear what you're saying. We've heard it loud and clear from the neighborhoods. We're going to adjust all that, and we'll continue to make every effort to give you back your sidewalk and give you back your neighborhood. So thank you for that.
Okay, so, yeah. Yeah, and I can hear what it's all about. It's pretty good. So we're going to go around the room here, so we're watching all the hands go up. So.
Hi, my name is Deborah. I live on Garden Street in Duncan. I'm diagonal from the Basket Society that's very well run and help people with food. That I have a solution instead of what everybody else is doing. I'm guilty of being a history major and a librarian. And so I was looking at what's happened in the past, and it was very interesting. After World War I, there were loads of people coming back who were disabled. These were mainly men, and they might have an arm. It could be anything. They were disabled people. and they didn't know what to do with them. So they got this bright idea working with the Red Cross, and what they did, the government provided or funded these big buildings, you know, like a big building, and within it there was a cafeteria, the Red Cross had medical services, and there were dormitories. But the coolest part was at the bottom, there was where they were learning a craft. They were like furniture makers. So it was stamped. I have one at home now, some old one, where it was stamped that craft. And they learned to trade. And very well made things. They were just incredible. It went on for about 19 years. And what they did, these people separated from not knowing what to do to learning to trade. And then they went out in the community and prospered. So while that might not be for everybody, I do think that some of these people, I watch them, and there are people who are just normal people, and those days must be long. So I think there must be some segment that if maybe part of the federal government could help or whatever, of people who want to do something, and something could be arranged for them. And so that's my suggestion.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, my original career was 45 years in the grocery business. It's a pretty basic, rudimentary, well, I call it a trade because I spent 45 years in there, raised my family, and bought a house and all that kind of stuff. But I always wondered why we always turned away people who had maybe a slight disabilities, ADHD or whatever. Now there's labels for all these things, but there wasn't back then. And you know, they just never got hired because they didn't interview well. But you know, fast forward to today, there's a new social enterprise. Besides Mindful Mouthful, it's Mindful Home and Garden. I gather some folks in the morning and we go out and we cut lawns. We're fully insured and stuff like that. And you should see these people that you wouldn't think, the ones you drive by and look at, how they can manage a lawnmower and a weed eater. And I'm not doing it for accolades. I just know that you're right. When there's nothing to do, idle hands are the devil's workshop type of thing, right? So not always true, but that's a good point. The microphone is migrated up top there.
So I guess the main thing is, and I don't know who's in charge of this, VHA or whatever, we all know the solution. Nothing's going to change. Whether you move fences, nobody should be cleaning up after them. If they're capable, I see what they can do. I see them making their drugs. I see all the things they can do. They can clean up after themselves, and we're not holding them responsible. And I think that they can. They're not as stupid as we think. They're just not. They're smart. They're actually very smart. And OPS has to move. That is the only solution. Bottom line, nothing's going to happen until it does. And I think we all can agree to that. Now, what this other woman was saying is something I wanted to address as well. As I see some of these people making beautiful artwork. There's a place, I don't know if anyone knows about it, Wagner Hills, out of Vancouver, and they are doing miracle work. And I think we need to, there's Hope Farm, but we need something much bigger than that. And they're actually getting these people where they're finding, we can call it the gold, that some of these people have gold inside of them that we're not seeing. And I see people doing beautiful artwork on the side of the road, they're not strung out, and all these other things. And what Wagner Hill does is they actually have a market where they actually sell some of their things. And these people are encouraged by that. They start getting hope. Like, there's hope for me. And yes, there needs to be counseling. It goes much deeper. But I think what this woman said earlier just totally resonates with me. And we need a solution. There does need to be property that opens up. I think the government has to be involved in this, obviously. And we can make a difference. I think that it is a solution. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Any of the panelists want to jump in? Portion, go ahead.
I was just going to say, both you ladies are so right on them. I just recently finished in my last position with a 3-year research project. Look out, sorry.
I'll see you, maybe I'll turn your mic down because we're whistling.
Oh. Well, I just finished, we're working on a 3-year research project with the Ministry of Social and Poverty Reduction, and where it was called the Lookout Up Full Employment Program. And we worked with individuals in housing, in shelters, and gave them basic sort of life skill training, hard skills like your first aid and nonviolent crisis and things like that that you would need to get into a position. And amazingly, we had way more success than we ever thought we would. Once folks got a purpose, they have some solid housing and some wraparound supports and a purpose going to work and learning something and realizing that they can do this again or for the first time ever, it's amazing how lives change and they become valuable members of the community once again.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you. My name's Joyce, and there are so many issues and factors, but I'll just keep it really simple. One of the things I recognize has been touched on, and that is the need for garbage cans by the Municipality of North Cowichan in New York Road, Lewis Street, Dingwall area. And I've recognized that for the last few years. When the OPS site first set up, I took it on myself to stand on the corner by the roundabout with a busy vest on to help the school children feel safe that there was a woman there when the site had been set up and people were on the streets. So I've recognized the lack of garbage cans. There's one good garbage can in front of this school, and that's about it. And so it's nice to hire more people and put that out there. But why I'm saying that is I'm with Life on Wheels, and we help the homeless regularly for over 3 years now. So 3 days a week, 3 hours each day. And many of them want to deal with the garbage and they've got no place to put it. So I'm like Bob down on Lewis Street and interacting with them. So if you please, Public Works, please provide garbage cans and keep them cleaned. And you could say, oh, well, what they're going to use it for or whatever. I don't care. They need garbage cans. Everybody on the street even does, even the school children have. So that was an issue I first identified. And then the other one is on York Road by Lewis Street, they need to paint the crosswalk sign. The crosswalk lines are faded right out and they need a flashing pedestrian light, and the reason is many of the people that cross by McDonald's driveway there over to Lewis Street, they're either walking slow, they're pushing a cart, they may have a walker or all the different reasons, but they need a safer pedestrian crossing there. I think I did mention that to somebody at Public Works way back when. And then the other thing that happened 2 weeks ago tomorrow night, I drive young people to youth group on Friday nights, and I've been doing that for 3 years. And they're young people, they're Cowichan kids, they go to Duncan Christian School. And on my way home on Friday night, it was about 10:30, driving down Beverly Street, just went through the roundabout. There's a woman literally passed out on the sidewalk, hunched over, out. So I'm not going to drive by, so I whip around to go back and check on her. And as I did so, a new police officer was also coming this way, and I asked, are you going to check on her? And he said, yes. I said, I'd like to too, because I may know her from Life on Wheels. So here we were, wonderful new officer. He's standing there with his car pointing one way and the lights flashing. Along comes the ambulance from the other direction and 2 awesome paramedics there with their lights flashing. We're all standing there. It's now about 11 o'clock at night. I've been talking with her already. Find out her situation. She has nowhere to go to be safe. Nothing. Nowhere. And so we're all standing there with their hands up in the air. We phone Warmland. Where can she go to be safe that night? So we ended up taking her to Warmland, but she couldn't stay there and just accept her. I'm saying the needs and her safety was at risk.
Thanks, Joyce.
Somebody could have hit her. That's what the police officer said. Somebody could have been on their phone and driven up and hit her, like you said.
Thanks, Joyce. In the interest of time, I just want everybody to know we've got about 15 minutes left before we can wrap up, and we're hearing a lot of stories that repeat themselves. They point to we need a place, right? We need a better place, and I could describe my own personal view of that, but these folks here are way smarter than me, and with this input, they're going to help us figure it out. We've got, like I said, the Great Wall of the Village, the Paddle Road does an excellent job too, and even Warmland. I mean, the people that you're just talking about out on the sidewalk, they don't live in Warmland, because I have clients from that building that they're not allowed to do any of that inside the grounds or out on the sidewalk in direct view of that facility. So it's I just say that so we don't bring everybody, all the individuals under one umbrella. There's some fabulous work being done. We just need the funding to do more of it, right? So we're going to make a phone up.
Thank you for bringing up funding, because we're in a unique position on Cowichan. I'm chair of the Board of Education. We have well surpassed $250,000 in spending on this problem. Sadly, that's coming out of our classrooms now, as we were $3.5 million short this year. And we had surplus to take care of most of that, but not all of it. The learning center cost us quite a bit of money, and so what I'm trying to figure out is what are the timelines, because we're running out of money before we have to start cutting deeper into classrooms, because we're not like North Cowichan or the City of Duncan or CBRD. We actually are in a time crunch and we're in a financial crunch. So what are the timelines for this plan, so that maybe we can plan fiscally better, or that we can maybe go to the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions and say, this is our costs, and maybe we can ask the mayors in the room to come with us. But we are in a financial position where we're taking money out of classrooms now, and that shouldn't happen. And we also know that we're at a point where in January we'll be closing down Cowichan Secondary and fencing it, and the extra security costs, because we don't call police when we have problems, we have security, so our security costs are going to be even higher, and the safety of that school is in jeopardy. So we've got some situations that are happening now, and so what we're looking for is timelines approximately when we can think that things could start shifting, and maybe we can figure something out. And then second of all, please don't put any more facilities around our schools.
It's good to hear from the school, and I'll let John take this one.
Thank you, Mayor, for that. I'll just say very simply, I'm in giddy-up mode. When I came here, I'm a planner by profession, but I don't believe in lengthy planning processes. It's a contradiction in terms, I know. But I like to get to these things quickly. We know the issues. There isn't a universe of possible solutions. We want to get to the stage where we have really strong consensus on what we need in this community to fix this stuff. Then we can go hammer our approach and advocate effectively to our provincial and federal governments. So I'm not able to give you exact timelines now, but I am in the let's do this, let's finish the planning process, and let's get to putting in place the services and things we need to do. So that's as close as I can get to you.
Yeah, from a person, seeing local government work, it's always good to align yourselves with other agencies, and I think that's possibly a good, not a waste of time, to be engaged in this planning process if you can. I mean, reach out to John and see if you can just keep updated or whatever. I'm sure there's ways you can keep that, but there's a great partnership because they both have direct lines to big ministries up and down the capital. So there's a great synergy there to work together. Yeah. So anybody else on the panel have something to say there? Okay, back to the microphone.
Travis again, North Cowichan, business owner Duncan. So I'm going to just roll back here to accountability. And John, you're saying that you're cleaning up after them, they're moving and they're feeling good. Bob, you're mentioning that a lot of this is, and I totally agree and understand that this is not a lot on the municipality, but mostly a lot on the provincial and federal government. But the thing is, there's about 13 mental health acts in Canada, and I believe Section 28 of the Mental Health Act bylaw, and the police are actually allowed to use, where if someone's being a danger to themselves or others, they're allowed to take them in. And the nice part about Section 28 is they actually have to be assessed by a doctor, from my understanding. And when these people are doing their drugs and are doing these things, there wasn't enough conversation about the residents and stuff like that, and about the kids. So why, if we want to get more provincial and federal money, the only way to get that done is get a nurse angry or a teacher angry. So if you're bringing them in on mental health, on the Mental Health Act 28, that's just going to prop up the numbers. And the nice part about that is the drugs right now are very potent. It's time to stop being nice to these people and start making it a pain in the ass for them to do this and live this lifestyle. Because you never make a change. You don't make a change unless something is hard. And unfortunately, I know that a lot of these people have hard lives trying to get their drugs and doing that kind of stuff, but it's also our responsibility on all levels of government and residents to push for these things. And we got to drive up those numbers in the hospital. We got to drive up those calls, and we don't have time. These people are getting addicted right away. They're dying within 6 months now, whereas we see them for 3-4 years. Now you see someone doing the drugs, and then in 6 months they're where the old person was 3 years. It took them 3 years to get there. So we don't have time. We got to be hold accountable, and we need the government money. And I think that bringing them in a mental health act is going to drive that up a lot.
Okay, it's just about time to wrap it up and get some final comments. So if the panel want to talk to that, go ahead.
I just want to make one clarification. Bylaw absolutely has no authority under the Mental Health Act
that to detain anybody. Like, it's only, it has absolutely nothing to do with our sphere of authority.
And then with the Mental Health Act, you're right, Section 28, you have to, so we have to be, as a police officer, to apprehend somebody, we're taking their rights away. It's just like potentially an arrest, so we're taking their rights away. So we have to make sure we're acting in good faith. I 100% agree with you that by using drugs is a dangerous thing, but it doesn't meet that threshold for the Section 28. The other problem too is I agree, like, you need to get other people in the health system and everything else involved. But every time we take somebody up to the hospital, I can't release that person until a doctor sees me. So you're taking a police officer off the road, and then you're also putting other people in. Unfortunately, so far, Cowichan District Hospital hasn't had many closures. If we keep putting people up there, it's going to add to other people's problems too when they're up there. So with the Section 28, they have to be in immediate danger to themselves or others. So that's basically suicidal. Like somebody's cutting themselves, they're in immediate danger. And I know you're right, the drugs that are out there are horrible and they are killing people a lot faster. And you never know that one time you use it, it could be your last time, right? But unfortunately, the Mental Health Act for the Section 28 for police officers to apprehend, it won't cover that, unfortunately.
Could they not put a police officer, not an extra cost to the community, but could they not have a police officer certain days and certain nights of the week in the hospital that you could just give care of custody, chain of custody right to them?
Unfortunately, so there is something I've heard, and I don't know where it is.
So they're in the hospital.
Yeah, so I don't know where it is yet, but I know they were talking. So right now we have protective services, so it's like a security officer up in the hospital right now. So there's something in the works right now where the province is trying to give them a designation as a peace officer. So then we would be able to do that. So we're kind of waiting for the province and I think the I'm not sure, to get that all lined up. But as soon as they become a peace officer, then we're able to hand off our patient. But we can't until that happens, unfortunately. So we're trying. I know there was some talk too about hopefully we get some funding for like. There's been some success with Car 60. It's called different in different communities, but we call it Car 60. So having a police officer, and a mental health worker, or a mental health nurse running around. I think there's been a lot of that kicked around, and again, it just comes down to funding. So I'm hoping that that's something that's on the horizon, which can kind of help that as well.
Okay, we're past our time. I'm looking for more. We're going to give praise to that, and then we're going to wrap up. So.
Hi, my name is Noah, and I too live on Beverly Street, and we've been there for 16 years now, so we see a lot of activity. I have a couple of questions for the panel, one of which is to do with the Wormland shelter, or to my knowledge, any homeless shelter. Oh.
Sorry.
Thank you. So my question is about the homeless shelters. Why are they turning away drug addicts when high? I think that is part of the problem. I think there needs to be shelters that will take people in when they're high and when they're drunk, because that's what drug addicts do. It's the reality of it. And to have a nation as rich as ours, with all the taxes that we pay, and to have this, as you said and other people have said, it's a common problem here, Victoria, Kamloops, all over, and yet our taxes go up and up. Where is that money going to? I mean, a large part of that budget should be going to more mental health resources, more mandatory rehabs, more long-term solutions. I see a lot of Band-Aid fixes, and yes, there is a time to put a Band-Aid on a bleeding cut, but if the cut keeps bleeding, you need to go deeper. And I keep hearing from the panel tonight, and I'm not going to point fingers, oh, we're committed, we're listening, but evidenced as to what we on Beverly, you on Lewis, the different businesses are experiencing, we're not seeing much. And I was really excited for the recriminalization of public drug use back a couple months ago. There's more there's certainly the same amount of addicts throughout town. You go to Winners, for instance, they have addicts going in there robbing them of hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of merchandise, and it makes it very difficult for a tax-paying citizen who wants to pay for their goods to be incentivized to do it. It's as if the laws are allowing all this lawlessness to make it less, desirable for people to have vision for their life. And it used to be you could come from nothing, a really impoverished background, and you stood a chance. You could have a nice home and a nice life if you work with it. And real estate costs, whatever, have gone up. Everything is so out of touch for the hardworking, but so within touch for those who at this point are not contributing. And there is public safety, and that should come first. And I think that this drug epidemic or pandemic or whatever it's been labeled as needs to be listed as a public health emergency. Thank you.
So thank you for those statements. My mic has disappeared.
You can help.
Yeah, and so we all know that that doesn't all lie with this.
But is
group
there any
here.
questions that
And
you
we're
ask?
talking about a change in a whole culture around North America and the rest of the world. So that's, you're right. So over here.
Hi there. Yeah, my name's Jason. Hello? Sure. Yeah, my name's Jason, and I'm a renter and a working professional. I grew up here in the valley. Yeah, but if I were rent evicted today, I would likely be homeless or living in an RV because I can't afford what the market rents are out there. I have unhoused friends, so I know it's very hard to keep yourself put together to hold down a job and get back on your feet when you can't sleep or shower easily. It's obviously no one's preference to be unhoused, and we've heard lots about that today. So these people would be in their homes if they have them, right? Most drug users in this valley don't use drugs on the street. They use them in the safety of their own homes. In fact, some of the loudest voices in the rooms are often people that use illegal drugs in their own homes, or they use legal drugs in the safe consumption sites referred to as bars or pubs. These people would obviously prefer not to be on the street where they can see them, where they can be displaced or attacked at any time. Many are neurodivergent, many have trauma, and many of them are indigenous people who have been displaced by colonialism and crappy policy. A large proportion of them were born in this valley. Some people feel unsafe when they see unhoused people or people using drugs. People acting erratically in public makes me feel unsafe as well. But unhoused people are actually the ones that are disproportionately subjects of violent crime, who are actually unsafe. And this is due to the lack of clean, safe, affordable drugs and affordable housing. The peer-reviewed research on safe supply is clear. It saves lives. It keeps people actually safe. It's a policy that's not concerned with safety feelings, but actual safety, which is what we should be talking about when we're talking about a safety plan. And I just finally like to say that garbage disorder and public drug use, they're not safety issues. They make people uncomfortable, for sure, but they don't make people unsafe. And the last thing I'd like to say is that I'd like to see how the municipality is canvassing working people, renters, and the unhoused themselves about what would make them feel more safe. And I don't think it's more police, I think it's affordable housing.
Good statements. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay, moving along.
My name's Carol Ann, and I've been around for a long time. I did the SEPTED review when Warmland House was going into its current location. And unfortunately, a lot of the recommendations that came out of that at that time were not implemented because it wasn't a problem. And if those recommendations had been put into place at that particular time, we may not have some of the situations that were here. It took 5 years to get the panhandling signs put up in some of the intersections and stuff. Somebody talked about the neighborhood. Warmland is where it is, in my opinion, because at that time, Warmland was sold to the community to be a community resource, and it never turned into that community resource for the community. And that community is also, at that time, identified as highly mobile, a lot of renters, people who weren't committed to the community, and it was easier to put it there than it was to go to Crofton, Chemainus, or Maple Bay. And because you weren't going to get the residents associations coming out in strength. Through that, social planning did the James Street Alexander project, and it really was ideas, as long as there was funding there, to bring the community together, to work with the different resources, to work with the different people in the community and build that as a community resource. We no longer have that, but people who were involved in the James Street Alexander were instrumental in getting sidewalks, where you have sidewalks now where sidewalks didn't used to be on Beverly Street and some of those other neighborhoods and stuff. And it was a neighborhood that really came together during the flood. So there is community there, but it needs to be brought together with leadership on a consistent basis and let the community have a say. I spoke with a lot of seniors who were in the apartments on Beverly Street. They couldn't log on and do the event thing to get a ticket to come. I just told them to come. Some of them are fearful of walking out because they're going to have to go through the people now that are taking up residence on those streets that go back to their home. So things that they should be looking at, if community policing was there, community policing could have offered walking buddies with them and walked them over to a group. Bob, you were at the Our Health Network when we released the results of the study. You take the survey to them. I was a surveyor or whatever that went into the apartment buildings with seniors and stuff and sat with them with an iPad and walked them through the process for getting the answers on the questions so that their voices were heard, not go on an internet thing and click on a thing and try to come. So I think you have to do more on the street, grassroots, connecting with the residents of the James Street Alexandra community and hearing what they have to say and let them voice. And the other one I want to say is when you talk about putting people together in a place, years ago the police used to have lots of calls going to what's now the Gala Vista and some of the lower end apartments. And Cofield House was brought together, where a lot of those individuals who were high call people were brought into one house who had the adequate supports, the mental health, the drug counseling. We did budgeting with them. We did all of those types of programs. That's what we need to have in this community and not just open up a center and give them nothing and expect them to be able to resolve the issues on their own.
Thank you very much. And next.
Hi, my name is Aaron. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out today and keeping things super civil and super solution focused. I also want to shout out the Lookout because I firmly believe that housing is healthcare. And I want to see a shout out to the folks that are on the stage there because I know this is not an easy challenge to talk about or an easy challenge to solve. About 9.5 years ago, I was precariously housed. I was addicted to fentanyl. I'm the guy that was peeing in alleys. And so what was preventing me from getting help? Like, what did that pathway look like, right? The Life and Recovery study that went and polled about 1,000 Canadians in addiction, or in recovery from addiction, said that 85% of folks didn't ask for help because they were afraid of the stigma, right? And I was the last person to know I had a problem. It might sound backwards to you guys, but like I was peeing in alleys and telling myself I was still okay, right? And what was missing for me was community. Navigating a pathway into treatment, navigating a pathway into a new way of life, navigating a pathway back to a job, navigating a pathway into further education, navigating a pathway to get back with my family, to get back with my community, to get healthy and to make friends took thousands of people and thousands of man hours, right? And for that, I'm eternally grateful. So for the folks that are here, right, it's really hard on a municipal level to affect that kind of change. Like healthcare, and we're talking about a healthcare emergency, is very much the realm of the province right now. But what we can do to help each other is to lift each other up, to be part of that community, to provide access to those pathways, to treatment, to detox. So when that window of opportunity opens, where that person goes, oh, my life is messed up and I don't know how to fix it, there's a doorway for them to walk through. So I really want to thank everybody for being here today. And just know that like, I'm not special and I'm not alone in my journey. I work at a treatment center. I get to see thousands of people that get their lives back every year. We're just down the road in Cobble Hill, and over the last 23 months, we've celebrated 5,000 years of continuous sobriety of the people that moved through our program, right? So we live amongst you, and we're not as visible as I feel like we should be, because we're way more visible on the streets than we are when we're in our recovery. But just know that like the garbage on the street, the needles on the grass, the fights in the alleyway are all symptoms of a greater problem. But there is a solution. That solution is hope, and that solution is community, right? The opposite of addiction is connection. And so get uncomfortable, take that step, and thank you all for supporting me in my journey, and I hope to support others in the future.
You know, it's been just a sweltering evening in here. Thanks for coming, for putting up with a lot of people waving their papers in front of them to stay cool. So I've saved this to the end. I just want to acknowledge that the municipality of North Cowichan sits on the traditional territories of the Cowichan First Nation, which includes Cowichan tribes, the Halal First Nation, the Laxan First Nation, the Penelkut tribe, the Stamanis First Nation, and North Cowichan also sits on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. And I'm very proud to say that I live in the territory of Supasid, so that's something I didn't, instead of saying at the top of the meeting, I want you to leave here remembering that as well, because I have a strong connection to First Nations culture because I work a day a week with our local First Nation too, and when you live and work and play with those people, you understand their culture, and you can look at that culture and say, we have a lot to learn from those folks as well. So we have learned a lot from each other tonight, and yeah, you made my job easy, folks. I know there's always tension in the air when it comes to this. I know there's all kinds of frustration, and it seems to always point at the local government, and this just gives them the strength to carry on the good fight and move these things up the ladder. And I'll be pushing still, like I do, and I know Michelle gets here to me often too, and everybody has staff. It's a matter of reprioritizing the tax dollars in this country. That's the one comment that I love to bring out when I get deep into these conversations. It is one of the most richest countries in the world. We need to get governments to reprioritize that funding away from other things. Don't know what it is. That thing might suffer for a while. We can get back to it. We need to get off our asses and solve this one first. And I apologize for the language, but we do, and we need to support these people and lift them up, as was mentioned, to do this work, because it's no fun being the target of all that. But we need your help lifting us all up together to get to that point. And you know what? I've known John for a while. He is the right man for us in the position he's in. He knows when he says he's in a hurry, he is in a hurry. John was very instrumental when COVID hit, making stuff happen, getting that funding, and making it happen now, not a month. It was less than weeks. So thank you, John, for this. Thank you for organizing this. Thank you to the panel for coming. You know what? Keep on, and knowing that that you are supported. If you hear those comments that you're not doing enough, you are, and you just need more support from us, right? To get more people. And I think about we're not doing this, we're not doing that, and I think I'm driving down the highway. I'm not doing the speed limit. As a matter of fact, I'm 10 over because that's what I've become accustomed to doing at times, and I'm going, there's not enough police. My license plate says Bob Day on it, so but anyway, so there is not enough police enforcement, there's not enough bylaw enforcement to catch every one of us who has gone over the speed limit. So this is another one of those things that we need to reprioritize, and I think the RCMP, as was mentioned, and the ambulance, they've been forced to reprioritize how they do things and what they do, and I applaud those folks for the work they do, because as I mentioned, and I love your story, that I've been down there, I know what goes on, I understand pretty good, and I challenge you in this age of Google and everything to look up trauma, to look up mental health and addiction, to look up the history. Just spend a little bit of time now and again looking at that, and you'll get a deeper understanding. And frustration comes from what you don't know. So we need to all figure out that. And I told you in the beginning, I got to figure out how stuff works. And so I would really recommend that you do the same whenever you can at your own comfort level. Figure out how it works and support everybody, and give them, if you're a praying person, pray that we get the funding that's going to have to come this way to make a difference.
Where are people allowed to go?
I'm just going to ask for a thank you to our facilitator, Bob Day. We can talk, and thank you for coming tonight, too.